All right, hey guys, Wilson here with Cabinet Startup, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about answering a really important question, and that question is, how do I get more customers? And so stick around, because in today's video, we're going to talk about 3 simple tips to help you get more customers. And also, if you like what you see here and you enjoy the content, make sure to like the video and subscribe so that we know we're making something valuable for you. One of the biggest challenges that we see with contractors, and I have guys call us pretty regularly, say, hey, I've got a business, I'm just struggling with customers, and what should I do, how can I get more customers? And the issue with that question, right, tip number 1, the solution to that question is you have to figure out what the actual problem is. Okay, customers it's a huge process, right? Just getting customers can be broken down into a bunch of different steps. So we refer to that, it's not lead generation, this is client acquisition. And that's the process of, where do our leads come from? How do we nurture those leads? What does the sales process look like? And how are we following up? You can break those 4 steps really into 2 different segments. It's sales or marketing. And so the real thing is, if you're struggling with getting customers, you need to determine for yourself, is this an issue of sales or is this an issue of marketing? And the easiest way to do that is to look at the problems that you're actually facing, okay? Do you have sales appointments that you're going on but people aren't converting, right? Simple to know. Do you have a lot of bids out there but people aren't actually signing the contract and writing you a check, all right? Or is it a situation where, you do really good work, but nobody knows who you are, right? You're not on that many phone calls. You don't have that many opportunities to actually go out and close the business. Because if you find yourself not talking to people, but you close a bunch of people when you do talk to them, right? So if you only have maybe 1 or 2 appointments a month, but you close those appointments, it's probably not a sales issue, it's a marketing issue, okay? If you have 10 appointments a week, but you don't have any business, it's not a marketing issue, it's a sales issue. And listen, for some people, it may be both. One of the challenges with being a contractor is you're very talented at what you do, but running a business, learning sales, learning marketing, it's an entirely different skill. And for most of us, myself included, when we start something new, we're not very good at it. And so it may be both, it may be one, it may be the other, but you need to determine what that is. What is the actual problem? Tip number 2. How do you get more customers, right? We determine if it's a sales problem or if it's a marketing problem. The next step is actually figuring out what the solution is going to be, and as an attachment to that, right? What's the solution, and then what's your budget, right? Because there are different solutions for different budgets. For example, if you said, hey Wilson, after thinking through it, my issue is definitely 100% a function of marketing, right? Just not very good at marketing. What do I do, right? Okay, well, there's a few things you can do. If you're not good at marketing yourself, you can buy leads that already exist, right? Number 2 is you can go do things like guerrilla marketing. You can go get flyers, and you can go get yard signs. You can go get, they call them bandit signs. You can put around town. I mean, there's a ton of options there. But what option you choose is going to, in a lot of ways, be dependent on your budget. You might say, I want to do Facebook ads. Well, I can tell you that Facebook ads are way, way, way more expensive to get right than something like flyers or hangers that you're going to leave on a door hanger. Both can be effective. One requires more physical labor on your part. It's going to be a lot harder, but that's oftentimes the case, right? You have to work harder if you have less funds immediately available. Welcome to life, okay? In the same vein, if it's sales, right? If your issue is sales, again, it's going to be what's your budget. Because you can learn a phenomenal amount of incredible sales information from books. The issue is it's going to be a lot slower than if you find somebody that's an expert in sales and you pay them to teach you how to do it, right? Either way, the first thing is to establish the problem. What is it? Marketing or sales. Step 2 is determine what's my budget and what are some solutions based on that budget. And as a caveat to this, when you're looking at solutions based on your budget, try and think about the solutions in terms of return on investment, not in terms of cost, right? For example, if I pay somebody $5,000 to set up a marketing campaign for me, and that campaign brings me 4 jobs, at our shop, our average job is worth about $5,500, okay? So for me, it's like, all right, well, if I spend $5,000 and I make $22,000, I can make that work. I can work with those margins. And I have to assume that over time, my marketing costs will go down because I want to keep my client acquisition costs below 20%, right? And so that's what we're going to look for. Same thing, if I invest money in a sales course, what's the return on investment? If we take our closing percentage from 15% to 20%, and we go on 10 appointments a week, right? We went from 1.5 appointments per week that closed to 2 appointments per week that closed. So 1.5 appointments per week. If we work 50 weeks and we're making $5,000 per job, means that we closed $375,000 in business. Not bad, okay? If we go to closing now 2 appointments a week instead of 1.5, our business jumps from $375,000 to $500,000. It's a massive difference, you know? And here's the funny thing. Even if you were only getting, let's say 2 jobs a month, you're making $10,000 a month, okay? You're not going on as many appointments, right? Maybe you're going on 5 appointments a week, okay? Well, still at that point, right, if you're making $100,000 a year with a closing percentage of 15% and you move your closing percentage up to 20%, you're now making $125,000 a year. It is a significant difference. And so if you pay $5,000 for a really good sales course and you increase your business by $25,000 just in the first year, it makes a massive difference. And so I strongly urge you to look at, you know, when you're considering these options, it's not just what does it cost, it's what is my return on investment. So that's the second tip, right? Figure out you know, exactly what the problem is, figure out a solution and determine your budget so you can figure out which one's going to be best for you. The last thing, and this is probably the most important step that I would give to somebody that's struggling a little bit to get customers, is if we know what the problem is and we know what a solution is, right? We implement that solution. That's assumed that you implement the solution. You have to implement the solution. Knowledge without action is not really that valuable, right? So I'm assuming that you found a solution, you implemented a solution, and then you can move on to tip 3. And tip 3 is to track the results. You have to track the results, okay? 1, if you're not tracking the results, you have no way of knowing whether or not your solution is working. Because in a lot of things in life, the first solution that we try may not work. I can tell you that there have been times that I invested large amounts of money into solving a problem and that particular solution didn't work. However, instead of continuing to invest money in a solution that didn't work, I stopped that and I went and invested money elsewhere to figure out how to solve that problem. Or I invested time elsewhere to figure out how to solve that problem. You know, the reality of this particular situation is we can't fix something or we can't change directions if we don't know, all right? Following a GPS instruction if you have no idea where you actually are on a map doesn't mean anything. And so it's important that you look at whatever solution that you're implementing, track it. What's the goal that you're moving towards and what are you getting at on each step? If it's a function of sales, be like, okay, cool. I know out of my last 10 sales calls or my last 100 sales calls or my last 500 sales calls, I averaged this percentage in closing. So now that I'm implementing these steps and I'm studying these processes every week, what does my new closing percentage look like? Is it moving in the right direction? Right? Am I seeing a noticeable improvement? And what are the things that I'm tracking in that? You know, are more customers happy with me and responding when I text them the next time? You know, am I doing more follow-ups and noticing that customers are coming from that? If it's a function of marketing, I'm going to be tracking every single week, like, okay, I spent $500 in Facebook ads. I've got $2,000 retainers. So that means we spent $1,000 this week. How many more leads did I get this week compared to the week before, right? And how many leads did I get this week compared to this same week last month? And I will track it like that, and I will literally just compare and say, okay, are we making steady, consistent progress as we're doing this? And so to kind of break that down, if you are struggling with getting enough customers, these are your 3 steps. Step number 1, figure out what's the actual problem. Is it marketing or is it sales? Step number 2, figure out some solutions and your budget, right? How much do you have to put towards something? And then look at that problem and say, okay, what's my return on investment? And then number 3 is track the results. Figure out if you're heading on the right course or if you're not, because no problem ever got solved by letting it stay there, right? You have to actually take action towards a solution, but we want to make sure that we're taking action towards the right solution. So I hope these 3 tips have been useful, and we'll see you guys next time.